Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
I can hear you loud and clear, Coach Jay, but I can't see anything.
I knew you were going to say that. Getting them sent over to you right now. Welcome, everyone. Happy Synthetic Monday. Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to the markets. Hopefully, everybody had a great weekend. Coach Paul, how was your weekend?
Good. Nice 3-day weekend. Got some rest. Um, Weather could have been better, but can't it always? How about you?
Same here. Good weekend. Did catch up on some sleep also, which is important. And missed out on a beach day. Yesterday would have been a perfect beach weather, but didn't have it in the cards, didn't have it in the plans, but it was a good weekend overall. Nice to get some time away from the charts. Welcome to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, the goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity. We want to see how we could take advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. This is our first time meeting. I'm Coach Jay, been a top step performance coach since June of 2023, trading for the past 13 years and in the futures markets for the past six, and that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep for 2 years. I've been involved in the futures trading industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share some experience, maybe some knowledge, and hopefully help you become a better trader.
Awesome stuff. Thank you for that, Coach Paul. You are all our chat, our audience. We want to thank you all for joining every day. Let us know how your weekend was and how your start to the week has been. Are you up on the day, down on the day? Maybe you stayed flat today, coming back off of a 3-day weekend and maybe just not placing many trades. We will talk about the news really quick. We did have a headline over the weekend. I don't. I know everyone here did not expect us to go a full 3 days without hearing something about tariffs. We got a delay pushing back the tariffs for the European Union about a week, I think it was. They're pushing it back to July 9th. The markets responded kind of favorably to that. As far as planned numbers go, we did have U.S. durable goods come in at uh, negative 6.3%. Forecast was negative 7.8%. And we also had a consumer confidence number that came in at 98 when the forecast was 87. We talked about this number a little bit on Fast Markets. What does that number actually mean? It means consumers are confident about the economy. Uh, a 98 compared to a 87 forecast is a big miss on the downside, but it's a miss in the right direction for confidence. Um, Outside of that, we did have Dallas Fed business index number come in, 2-year auction as well. None of those really affected the markets. Kind of was just a slow grind rally up day. Anything you have on the Coach Paul?
You hit it on the head. It starts with a T, ends with an F. Depending on the day and the tweet, you you, you don't know. Um, Seems to me it's going to continue to be this way. So be prepared. There's nothing you control. The only thing you can control is your risk.
Good stuff. Thank you for that, Coach Paul. Let's take a look at the charts. There are 35 different markets we can trade with top step accounts, not just the equities. And today, to the downside, we had gold down 1.88%, copper down 1.97%, and wheat futures, our biggest percentage mover to the downside at 2.58%. To the upside, we had the NASDAQ up 2.37%, the Russell up 2.62%, and the Nikkei, our biggest percentage mover to the upside at 4.03%. These percentages are a little bit skewed. We got to remember that yesterday was a non-settlement day in the Nasdaq. So these percentage, or sorry, not non-settlement day in the Nasdaq, non-settlement day in all of these markets. So the percentage moves that we're seeing is from settlement on Friday, right? So their market did trade yesterday. Uh, this percentage is 2% off of the settlement from Friday, which is why we're seeing these numbers be so big. We did have a kind of trend day up, but it wasn't a 2% day uh, in that sense. To round out our big four, we have crude oil down 0.75%, the S&P up 2.13%. We already talked about gold and the Nasdaq. Gold down 1.87%, and the Nasdaq up what was that number? 2.38%. It's the first day of the week, Coach Paul. So I'm going to pull up a daily chart. What are we looking at here in the Nasdaq?
Um, Onward and upward. Can't keep a good Nasdaq down. Corrected on Wednesday or on Thursday as we bounced off the 200. Now we have the 20, about to cross the 200. When are we going to blow the air horn? Oh, wait, is there a tweet? No. So we're still in a solid formation to keep grinding higher.
We are still about 5% off that all-time high in the Nasdaq, trading around 21,474. We saw last week that consolidation that we had, but we came down, checked the 200 moving average on the daily, acted like a support, and kind of bouncing off of it. We know yesterday we did trade, although a lower volume session. Look at the volume on this chart here, where there's pretty much no one trading yesterday, but still made a decent move. Let's go down to a shorter time frame chart. Let's take a look at the 30-minute. That white line right there. But let's
S-
go ahead, coach.
Support, support.
Support. Support. Let's take a look at the price action from yesterday. Um, we did have the comments about the tariffs for the EU. That was this candle here, and much of the opening weeks, the range to start the week was that exactly. Dakota and I were talking about on slow markets last night about maybe seeing a retracement of some of this range. We know that this happened on lower volume. For me, being a volume trader, seeing a lot of this price action happen on lower volume, it's not a surprise to see kind of a retracement of this move. We were looking for a pullback to around 20,000, 21,150, which we got here. Maybe this is a trade that I should have just put on. Um, but we got the pullback. So coming into the session, the New York session this morning, it's kind of the pullback's already satisfied. Do we really need another one? This was just a perfect retest of that 200 moving average. Coach Paul, somebody said in the chat, who is this? OL2Gs said, "What does Topstep normally give away during live streams? I'm new to the firm." OL2Gs, thank you for joining us. Every once in a while we are giving away resets and things like that. I think the best thing that we give away here is information, free information. Chat, what is this white line down here? Everyone should know if you join us during At the Buzzer. We're looking at a 30-minute chart, the 200 moving average. If you just trade the New York session, that was the low for the day. We ran it by a couple of points because the Nasdaq runs everything by a couple of points. But that is a trade location that we've talked about a ton of times on this show, and kind of proving to be important again, Coach Paul.
But you know what I like to do too, if you're new to it, is once it hits the 200, attach a VWAP to it.
Yep.
If the institutions follow it, we should see some support, and follow through volume. So I mean that really that's the trade.
Yeah.
Um, and if it doesn't, well, you take a good loss. But we've seen it for how long now? 2 years? Has it been 2 years? We've been
It's
doing
been 2 years.
it.
It has been two
Wow.
years. Yeah.
Maybe we should do a giveaway.
Maybe we should give maybe we should get something. Give us
There
something.
you go.
Give us a like. How about that? Give away some likes to us. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't done so already. But like you said, Coach Paul, that was the low for the day. Shout out to Lisa Spy Gig in the chat, number 2 on the Top Step leaderboard. She was long in the S&P. We'll take a look at the S&P. But I marked out that 200 moving average. Uh, I mean, you look at the market's reaction to it, right, Coach Paul? Every
Yep.
level is a level, but it's more about the market's response to it. There were no sellers under that 200 moving average on the 30-minute, and we just bounced right up from there. So initially, if we look at the 3-minute opening range, it's an okay short, but medium time frame structure said that this was a market that was going to potentially find some support down here at these 21,200s. That's exactly what we did. and then a slow grind, kind of rally up all day, one directional move. This is a pretty uneventful day outside of this open right here.
Yeah, and we have to remember this opening incorporated 2 days.
Correct.
I mean, it was what was it? Open 70 higher.
Right.
Um, so I wasn't surprised to see some selling, profit taking, whatever. Let's, bigger money testing it. What was interesting is we had a J trade on the opening. Um, but we didn't make new. It wasn't lows of the day,
Yep.
but once we broke that high,
Good night.
and we did the test of the 200. Um, and one of the lessons, if you're sensitive to just price, and what do I mean? We're up 70. How can I buy it?
Yeah.
That's going to hold you back. I know from my own personal. I used to get. I'm like, I can't buy it now, but I can. Um, if you will pay attention to the flows and the volume, and manage your risk. I use two average, two ranges. Um, you can you can buy it 70 higher, 75 higher. So that's one hurdle to get over if you're just price sensitive.
100%. Shout out to Billy. The 2000 moving average on the 3 minute is also the 200 moving average on the 30 minute. So if you don't want to switch back and forth between time frames, you could adjust your moving averages. It's all
Great
math.
math.
All math.
It's
Your
all
math.
math.
Your high school math teacher would be proud. Or maybe middle school. Or like middle school math, right? Either way, nice level down here. I just moved the 20 moving average down to the 2000 on the 3 minute, and we see a bounce from there. Coach Paul, we got a question from Lorenzo. We talk about the 30 moving average, sorry, the 200 moving average on the 30-minute chart. Why the 30?
Um, well, it works on a daily, hourly, 30. I grew up on a 30.
Okay.
Um, market profile. Here's the history. On a 30-minute, you hit on a trading floor. You recorded your trades on a trading card, and
Okay.
then um, you had to hand your cards in every half an hour. So every half an hour, if you look, was tagged with a letter. So if it was, for instance, 8:30 to 9, that could be bracket A. Um, and then the next half hour would be bracket B. And so the trades had to be handed in to be key punched and brought into the system. So the half an hour, it was a slower moving time, was was important. The structure. Also, it has a little more time than the 5 minute and the 3 minute. So in a hierarchy of time frames, the higher time frame will dictate the direction of the lower time frame for execution. And It's so if it's moving and it's above the 30-minute 200, then I'm looking to buy it in a shorter term, of looking for structure. It's a very common time frame for trading, um, but it's not exclusive. So let's bring up the 60 and see what it did.
All right, let's take a look. Here's the daily again. We were talking about the daily. I switched over to the S&P, but the daily 200 moving average is something that we've been talking about a little while. 58.99. S&P closing the day up near the 59.40-ish area. But let's take a look at the 60-minute chart. Looks a little different.
But it gives you. Here's another thing in the daily. Why it's so important. There's roughly 200 trading days a year.
Right.
So I believe that's the reason, that the original technical reason. Well, I know that larger funds watch the 200-day moving average for their allocation purposes. So now you can use different ones, but I found the 200 is the most reliable. You could go heck, you could go 2000. Someone just did, or
Whatever
but
you use, keep it consistent.
it's consistent. Here's the key: is l- if you're looking for flow in the market, you have to start with a longer term time frame and bring it down. You can't start the opposite. You won't get the entropy that is involved in getting movement. So that's it in a nutshell.
Awesome stuff. Thank you for that, Coach Paul. Let's take a look at the S&P really quick. Again, 200 moving average on that 30-minute. We can see at the lows right there as well. I'll mark out that price. And again, we came back into we're delaying the EU tariff handle. We we keep marking out these different candles. There's a couple. So we had, maybe I need to start putting some text on these because this one was, okay, this one was the 20-year auction. Right, so we had 20-year auction up here, 59.48 half, and we were kind of in the middle of delaying EU tariffs, and then that 20-year auction response that we had. But we can see the low, this kind of general area where we've seen a ton of volume trade. Market had to make some decisions, and more current market participant that we saw were these buyers on the EU tariff delay. Came down, checked it. They're still there buying. We bounced right off of it. Again, shout out to Lisa for this trade. I think she got long 58.78 in the S&P. And she said, I'm holding this until the end of the day. She traded with 8 micros. Best thing I love about that trade, 8 micros, the number two trader on Topstep's leaderboard, trading micros. Traded 8 of them. Is a decent and got a huge move from it, right? She took almost 60 points out of a micro trade. Um, you know, great on her for holding the trade that long, but she had some conviction there. And she could have easily, she was right about that trade, right? She was, her entry was 10 points from the low. You know, I'm number two on the leaderboard. I've built this balance. She doesn't say, let me throw on 15 minis there. Someone who's extremely confident in this trade, so much so that she said at 9:45, or I think she got on the show around 11 a.m. Eastern time. She said from that point, she was leaving this trade on the entire day. Now, to have the self-awareness and discipline to not just completely over leverage into a trade like that, Coach Paul, is why she's number two on the leaderboard.
Oh, absolutely. It was a great trade, and it was well managed.
Yep,
I don't know what her stop was, but she didn't get to where she was by gambling.
correct.
Um, so she, she had a reason, she had a plan, she executed it. Great job. And I mean, when it comes down to it, she just didn't do that randomly.
Right.
I don't know what her stop was. I'm sure she had one in there.
She trailed it up. She did trail it up. She
Oh, there
initially
you
had a
go.
stop. I think it was about 10 points from the initial entry. But then once it got into the profit, she trailed her stop up. By the time she got on her stop was up around 58.93, I believe. And then while we were ending fast markets, where we were up, in the 59.20s, she said she's going to trail some more, take something off. But by the end of the session, during power hour, she said, I'm closing the position now. And just an amazing trade, conviction in the trade. That's at least a 5 hour hold time. Uh, and again, I think I really want to point it out. She had, you never know for sure where anything is going, but she had some pretty good conviction in that trade and still decided to say 8 micros as the number two trader on the big board is enough for this position. And, she can trade again tomorrow. It's a really nice trade by Lisa.
Um, I just have a quick comment. Delta Tango, the 252, but the 200 SMA lags too. Yeah, it's a good, it's a good point. All moving averages lag because they're backward looking.
Yep.
I use it just to understand that it's not going to be perfect. It's an idea of what the market structure is from the past leading to the present. It's not looking to project out to the future. It gives a benchmark for flow. But it's a good point. And all moving averages lag. They have to. They can't project.
Yeah, I think most most indicators are probably lagging. Even our charts, they're lagging, right? Where the orders are coming in and then the chart prints it. Uh, how we project is what we think to a high probability has the potential to happen. Um, volume is a forecasting indicator. Uh, that's
Volume is the energy.
that's me being biased.
If
Yep.
if there's no volume, there's no movement. Think about that.
Right.
And that's a principle that truly it goes back to physics. It cannot. If there's no volume, there's no trade.
Right. No volume, no trade. Speaking of which, I did take a trade. I want to point this out one out. This one ended up being a loser in the Russell. We did have what I thought had the potential to be a J trade, right? And we have to point out the examples where they don't work out. We had decently high volume at the highs. It wasn't a super anomaly, right? It would normally when we're looking at these, we're looking at something that is bigger than the volume in the open or something similar to it. It wasn't exactly that, and like you just said, Coach Paul, no volume, no trade. I took an initial short in the Russell once we got this closed below, and this was a trade that at one point I had about a 1-to-1, and so maybe I could have managed and taken some profits off of it. Was looking for a 2-to-1, but exactly like you just said, Coach Paul, no volume, no trade. And I think I've said it on this segment before, but know exactly what it looks like when your trades don't work out. This trade stopped working because the volume stopped trading, right? If we look at this VWAP from this range, it never left the range. So I had a good one, probably could have taken it off. Looking at this signal, there was no more selling. So the market pops right back up, kind of stops me out. And really traded that range for the rest of the time. So this is what the market was willing to give me. This is where I think you have to kind of adjust. Maybe as you receive new information when you're in a trade, you can adjust your profit targets. But in this case, there was just not enough follow through, no volume, no trade. Not surprised that we pop right back up into the range, and then end of the day, we see some volume coming in, and we end on the highs. Uh, they don't always work, but I think knowing what
Oh,
it looks like when it doesn't work. Go ahead, coach.
while you have Rusty up there, can we look at the daily?
Let's take a look.
Wait, where's our trend line?
My bad. I cleaned up my charts. I deleted it. I'll draw another
Oh,
one.
how
I
can you
got you.
do us
I
like that?
I got you.
Oh, still underneath, still lagging.
Huh. Right at the highs.
Now, for trend line people, this is this is a trend line right out of the dictionary. Um, we really, like I said, I want to watch that every day. I think if the one that's got to play to catch up, all of a sudden you see that one up big. I'm starting to feel it's going to happen soon until the next tweet, but I can't control the tweet. Um, interesting. Still under the 200 moving average. Um, boy, just tempted to
If it
buy
breaks,
calls on it.
there's another market we want to talk about with a trend line. But yeah, this is building some momentum potentially under here. Uh,
Okay,
so
John Jones. Now you got that song in my head. Not a bad song to have in your head.
good song.
No woman, no cry, no volume, no trade. Well, maybe I think we got a meme here.
Yep. No, if Hungus is in the chat, if we can get a no volume, no trade, that'd be awesome. But I agree, no volume, no trade. Anything else on the equities we want to talk about, Coach Paul? We want to move on to gold.
Let's move on to gold.
Awesome stuff. Think on to gold. Right. Here's gold on a daily. What are we looking at here?
Yes, we're correcting sideways again. Short-term trend line we broke, but we're still holding the 20-day moving average. It's interesting. We're not getting that follow through buying like we did a month ago. Um, on the
Think it has something to
overnight,
do with a
looks
rollover?
it starts to break. It starts to rally. It possibly could. Um, but I'm on in the camp that the rollover doesn't dictate the direction of the underlying market.
Okay.
It will have an effect in the shorter term, but yeah, because they want cash. Um, but that Asian buying, it doesn't have the oomph that it's had in the past. It's kind of fading. Doesn't mean I want to go blindly sell it, but um,
Not as strong as it once
how
was.
long has it been since? Yeah, how long has it been since it's at April? It's been almost what, a month and a half since we made the all-time high.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that long, but almost exactly that. Right, a little bit more than that actually. We're at May 27th. This high was made on April 22nd. Um, have not
So
traded really back into that candle much.
no. So well, first thing it's telling us, it's finding some balance here. It's which if you're long, it starts to get a little nervous. But we've seen this before. The key is whether close below the 50, and then the 20 gets below the 50, and then wow, and then you could see a vicious break, but we're not there yet. But it needs to get the bulls need this thing to start bringing some energy back.
Yes, they do. We are seeing the 20 moving average start to act as a support low of the day today. I do want to go down to a shorter time frame. Dakota and I were on slow markets last night, potentially looking for a long in gold. Dakota had what he called his trade of the year, best trade of the year as far as day trades go, kind of longing off of this trend line here. He had it on an hourly. We can see it here, but on slow markets last night, we saw the markets come down and test this trend line, and at that point, Dakota's like, you know what? I actually don't like this. We can see the volume momentum kind of building as we're testing this trend line, and you know, I could put any line on my chart and say, oh yeah, this is a level I want to buy it. But I think watching the market's response to it is extremely important. Look at when it worked out for Dakota, right? When we came down and tested that trend line, lower volume into that area, so we bounce off of it, as opposed to today's action where we have volume building. That means there was more aggressive market participants here, kind of selling right through that, and as soon as that trend line broke, pushing us back down to those 3,300. So nice short in gold last night. I did have a copper short on that. I think this price action kind of helped it out a little bit, but nice trade in gold there.
I'd like to hear. You just said Coach Dakota was looking to buy it and saw
Yeah,
some new structure.
yeah, and I said nope.
No, that's
Yeah, and he
that's
was
great.
looking to buy 3340s, right? And I think this is where you can have a level, right? And support and resistance is only support and resistance are if there's a volume presence that says this is still a support, right? Um, I could draw a horizontal level on this chart and say 3330s needs to hold. There's no buyer there to hold it. Guess what's not going to happen? It's not going to hold, and we break right through it. So reading that structure, reading that market response to these levels, I think maybe you don't get into a short here, but it keeps you out of a long by reading the market's response.
Yeah, not being a perma bear or perma bull
Yeah,
allows you to lose. Well, or like you said, he would don't take the trade. Oh, I'm not buying that. Then versus, well, if it's not a good buy, I got to sell it.
right.
That's not necessarily the case, but being able to recognize structure and not be challenged by, oh, well, I have to be right.
Yeah.
Um, so great job on that.
Coach Paul, we
But
got a question for you. The 20 years back under 5%. Gold can't rally. Is the sky done falling?
until the next tweet, this is all caught in the tariff talk.
Yep.
This is it.
It's nothing else but that. Yeah.
It really is. With that said, I think the markets are sending someone who tweets a message, and
Mm,
he seems to respect that. Like the stock market and the bond market, um, they'll have none of it. So I think that I'm not in that space, but the evidence technically suggests that it's. I mean, look, as soon as he says it's on or off,
yep.
what happens to the bonds and the stocks?
Yeah. It's just jumping at a headline, at any headline. And again, these are not headlines that say there is a deal. There's just potential for a deal, and the markets are kind of grasping at that. So, and rallying.
With
Anything
that,
else?
structurally, by the by way, speaking of wanting to get short, I did get out of my short bonds and bought some calls. Wasn't a day trade, um, and they responded. Technically, I don't want to get too aggressive on the long side, but we'll look at the bonds a little later. But um, yeah, the sky is done falling for now.
Why don't we
But
look
we've
at the
been here
bonds?
before.
Why don't we look at
All
the
right.
bonds now, Coach? We got a question from Billy. Bonds have been calmer. Is reverse repo amount ever a consideration or indicator of current conditions, allocations, or just noise?
Wow. Good question. All right, let's look at it technically
Coach Paul
from
question. Looking at the daily here on the 30 year.
yeah, yeah. We'll start with the daily. Um this rally is on light volume. So we're still under the 200. Surely seems to be short covering. Um but when bonds move. I mean, they're money.
Yeah.
So if you haven't traded them, don't FAFO and um, go trade something like the 5 year or the 10 year. But the structure is still very heavy. Um, we've rallied what 1, 2, 3, 4 days in a row. Um, we're still under the 20-day moving average. Uh, this thing could turn like we were just talking about. We're just a tweet away of making new lows.
Yep.
I don't think the market is fully confident. Um, so yeah, bonds. This is a relief rally. So it means the selling stopped. Longer term sellers stopped. But it sure isn't this. I mean, I ask you, Coach Jay, does that look healthy?
For a relief rally, and that's about it. I think if I'm long term bullish, this is on a daily chart. I'd want to see it close above this 20-day moving average at least, and then we start talking about some potential targets higher. But no, this looks like a market that's bouncing in a downtrend, kind of bear market rally stuff.
Let's look at the half hour.
Let's take a look at the half an hour from last night's. Well, from yesterday, right? Yesterday we had a decent rally in a pretty quiet session overall, right? Low volume, nice rally.
Yeah, above that white line.
And here's last night's open. pretty one directional rally there, right? On that half an hour, or we're talking about a market that on a daily is in a downtrend. There are counter trend moves, right? And Coach Paul, I know for you, you're talking a little bit earlier about why you like the 30 minute on a day trade. If you're above the 200 moving average on a 30 minute on a day trade, you're looking to potentially buy this market. This is exactly what we saw here. It was a pretty nice one directional move above that 200 moving average.
Yeah, classic short covering based on random
Random
news,
headlines, yeah.
random headlines. So it's a great question, Billy. Is reverse repo amount ever a consideration or indicator of current conditions, allocation, or just noise? That's a great question. I would so a reverse repo would be done by the central bank or the Fed. I haven't seen it done, but it would. That would be something um, that would be a red flag. But the bonds have definitely been calmer. Um, Needs a lot of work to really say it's done, but it's now. We'll see. I don't, we can't even think of 2 days out being the president because you just don't know. I don't. I saw a headline that said that Trump could fire Jay Powell.
Oh
I
wow.
don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not.
we
I
gotta
don't.
trade in the present, especially now.
Yeah. Abdul Banziani. I hope I pronounced that right. Yeah. Bonds are hefty markets that are hard to manipulate. You don't fuck around with the bonds. Whoops. You know.
Said the quiet part out loud. Brady
Yeah.
said the loud part out loud. 590 watching, only 3 likes. Brady, we got a little bit more than that. If you refresh the video, you might have been early to the party. We got about 63 likes, but we appreciate everyone being here. If you can, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button for our friend Brady there. Thank you for calling it out. And I just hit the like button as well because I always forget until somebody in the chat reminds us. So we appreciate it, Brady. Uh, The True Crusader said, "Do you think this move is similar to 2022?" Similar, yes. We talked about this a little bit before. 2022 was the last time, if we're talking about the equity markets, the last time we spent so much time under 200 moving average on the daily. It was a follow up question. If it looks right, we are exactly where we were then, based off. Yeah. So from a technical perspective, we're back above that 200 moving average. Uh, we used it as a support. If we look back to 2022, maybe on NDX, this looks a little bit different. But yeah, we're kind of in that same space where now the question is, and we're talked about the death cross before, right? On the way down, does this 20 moving average on the daily cross above the 200 uh, and continue to push us up? In 2022, it didn't, right? We didn't even get as close, but a little bit different here. Feel like 2022 to you, coach?
Feels like 2025. No,
Yeah, same.
it does. We talked about it. Um, I mean, while history might not repeat itself exactly, it rhymes. So, can this thing turn around and fall apart? Absolutely. Now, and it goes back to a point as a trader, and I have to struggle with this myself: day trading and position trading.
Yep,
They're two different things.
2 different brands.
S- Um, Now we can use the longer term trading to get an idea of what the bigger money, there's, we used to call that the strong hands. Or, the strong hands are in the direction of the trend. Um, can this turn around on a dime? Absolutely. All it takes is, there's plenty of factors that could just flip this.
Yep,
But in the present moment, because I only live in the present, can't change the past, I don't live in the future. this has to be a focal point of as a trader, because when we get too much into the prediction or this is going to happen, and we can get anchored.
Yep.
Not the VWAP, but the Coach Paul WAP.
Yep.
Um, uh, Staying in the present, understanding that like a classic example is Coach Dakota. Yeah, no, I want to sell this now.
Yeah.
Why? He didn't just change his mind, but he found something came to him and said, "No, wow, okay, understood," and adjust.
Yeah, Abdu, yeah, I 100% agree with you. Abdu is saying something about the bonds here. Maybe not the best markets to scalp. I mean, unless you're trading like 500 contracts, uh, it may not be the best to scalp with like a one or a two lot in the bonds. They're very liquid markets, and if you're looking to scalp for a tick or two, you might be paying a lot in commissions doing that. Traders do it, but they're usually trading with some pretty big size, decent size, scalping those markets. All right, let's go over to. I want to talk a little bit about the copper short that I had on last night. Uh,
Oh, mhm.
Go ahead, coach.
Go ahead. I could see it immediately where you were going.
Uh, yeah, the white line was the target on this short. Why did I get into this trade? On a Really wasn't looking at at copper at all. I had it kind of up on a side screen, and I saw this volume spike come in here. First thing I do every time I see a volume spike like that, I'm gonna frame it out. Ask myself whether or not this has the potential to follow through. And then if we look at a higher time frame, we were under the 50 moving average, under the 20, uh, and let's do this right here from last night's open. We're from the open, we were in somewhat of a downtrend. We got that extension of volume away from it. And I looked at this and said, hey, you know what? This has the potential to be a reversal. But if we hold around this 50% here, I like this trade and I want to be in it. My risk is going to be above this high where that selling came in. Uh, it turned out to be a pretty good trade. I think I did get a 2-to-1 on this. I got short right around here. Risk was above the high. And I take profit was somewhere down there, close to a 2-to-1. It played out to a 2-to-1 at the end of the day if you held it. But I think what I want to point out here is I don't trade copper all the time. But from a technical perspective, what we look at can be applied to any market. This was selling. And we've talked a lot about, the not maybe not just the high volume, but the market's response afterwards, right? We would be looking for a reversal if we closed above this high. But if I look at VWAP, it stayed a flat line for pretty much the rest of the session and then trended lower. Uh, this was a decent risk to reward trade. Again, off of a 3-minute volume candle. I was not looking at copper to trade otherwise, but if I see this structure in any market, it presents an opportunity. This is when we start the call and say our job is to identify opportunity, see how we could take advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk, and take this trade in any market. Buyers and sellers move the market eventually. My job is to follow them. You were going to say something, Coach Paul.
The idea that volume, all right, and we just talked about how Coach Dakota saw the gold and said, "No, well, wow." He saw some here's the structure. If I wanted to buy that,
Hmm.
okay, I look into just if I have to buy that and I see that kind of structure, I'll buy it if it closes above that 3 minute.
Yep.
This is another way to look at it, is try to keep different perspectives. Um, that was a huge range,
It was
um, and big volume.
three quarters of a
Um,
percent in a 3-minute candle. Big move.
that was and that was on the opening?
No, that was at 8:15 Central Time last night. I don't know why it happened, but spike of volume enough to
Hmm.
start structuring an idea around it. And I don't know anything fundamentally about copper. I just like
Yeah, you do.
trading charts that move.
It's a conductor.
There we go. Uh, any other markets we want to talk about? Got to show some love to crude oil, even though
I'm
this is a
starting to
face only a mother could love. What are you gonna say, Coach Paul?
I'm starting to trade that a little differently,
Okay,
finding some. It's a market you can buy low, sell high.
there
That's
you
just,
go.
that's, I mean, look at that 200.
Flatline.
Put that
S-
VWAP when it closed below it, and I caught that and did cover near the lows. I had support on on a day trade, and I usually don't do that, but it had urgency there on that. It had follow through. We talked. We're going to go back to the bottom of the range. Turn around. I'll probably look for it to go to the 200 tomorrow. There's such balance in this market. If you're a range trader, hurry, hurry. this is this is the mother of all range trades. We don't, it's usually it's not my kind of market, but man, this market is in balance. And if you're a person that likes to trade balanced markets, it's a friendly place to be.
Like cheers. You want to go where everyone knows your name. Everyone knows where crude oil is gonna trade. It's a range, high to low. We did take a trade during the opening call in crude oil. Um, and I did kind of reference that 200 moving average, Coach Paul, where 9 a.m. Central Time, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time crude oil opens. Right before that, we kind of came up and checked these moving averages. And although this is a market that is somewhat balanced, this is helping us identify the upper extreme of that balance, right? We have the moving average stacked to the short side. And what do I mean by that? The longest term moving average is on the top, medium term is in the middle, shortest time frame is on the bottom, which means that the market is moving lower, at least on this 30-minute. We came up, kind of checked it, no buyers above it. And we did take an opening range short from the uh, crude oil, looking at 9 a.m. Eastern time, 8 a.m. Central. Opening range trade, most mechanical trade in trading. Uh, Allow the 1 minute opening range to establish, go from there. If we look at it, volume left that range extremely early. Uh, there's some urgency there. We did come back and kind of test the range. We took the trade off. We got out on this cross back above VWAP. Maybe it was one that we could have got back in. I think if I saw this VWAP this way, I probably would have gotten back into this trade. But it turned out to be a pretty nice one. Not a bad trade. I just don't know.
Well, here, and like I said, if you're a good range trader, this is a great
Yeah.
place.
Yep.
I'm not. I know my strengths and appreciate my weaknesses, but maybe I'm just a little too giddy that I caught and covered, and I usually don't. Um, but remember, this market. Let's go back to the daily. If you haven't been with us before, there's the, there's no trend in crude oil. So I don't see it changing anytime soon. I know rig counts. I know someone who follows rig counts. The rig counts are starting to go down, which would be start to become bullish, but that takes time. Um, so look at that. Wow, is that really the daily?
This is the daily. Yeah. This looks like a 1 minute chart before FOMC or something where no
I
one's
was
gonna
about
do
to
anything.
say, could you put the daily up, please? And there it
This is
is.
it. This is what we're living with.
um,
That 20 moving average is a support on the downside. We can see where it bounced. So again, like you said, Coach Paul, if you're a range trader, identifying these extremes, there's a ton of opportunity in this market. My brain doesn't process information well this way. I can see it, but in my executions, I don't trade it well. Maybe I'm making an excuse for myself, and I need to say, hey, you know what? Just be better. Um, but Shaq understood that he couldn't shoot threes. and he was still
No,
he was still in the Hall of Fame.
uh, get out of his way when he was coming to the hoop.
Exactly,
And by the
exactly.
way, speaking of basketball, who said that to put Pacer colors on there?
I don't know. I think they were trying to get a lifetime ban from at least from this show. Nixon six,
Uh,
Nixon six over here. Uh,
well, it's gonna have to be.
Nixon six. All right. Do I use a 3 minute instead of a 5 minute? Yeah, I do. I like the 3 minute chart better. I think I got caught on the 3 minute chart one day and I haven't been off of it. Uh, but whatever you use, keep it consistent. The 3 and the 5 minute, there isn't going to be much of a difference between the two. I just maybe I like the number three. All right. Coach Paul, micro Bitcoin. We got some traders asking about it.
All right, well, let's start with the daily.
Here we are.
Still in a solid uptrend. Um, but the last 4 days, look at that candle. Wow,
Pretty
is that a
indecisive
hammer
right there.
candle? That's indecisive. I know if we go to the half hour, it's starting to trade under the 200. I saw someone thought about selling it. I myself, I got flat. I'm not because of that daily. I'm not looking aggressively to get short. Once again, this is in a roll also,
Okay.
and it's a funky roll. Don't be careful. You do not. I did get caught in the last day in Bitcoin. The- It's it's a back alley.
Volume disappears.
Oh man,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I was triggered. I was like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me!" But um, it's finding balance here. It's another one, kind of like gold, where it's got to get going. Not as it has not as urgent as gold, but I could see why you would want to short it. But I personally don't want to short it. If you notice here, though, one of the things you're probably feeling is look at the moving averages.
yeah,
They're
they're starting to
compressed.
converge. Yeah.
This is balance.
Yep.
Now we move out of this range. There's a You can go either way. Um, I could see why you would want to sell it because here, if we pan out a bit, go back a little, the ranges. Look at those moving averages were far away. Now, when
Yeah.
look what happens when they compress. But you know, the overall trend is up, and I personally don't want to get short. It could go without me. But I did flatten out here at the close, and it's getting a little choppy. So I am giving a little bit into the um, losing side, the cost side. But hey, you could see. I mean, with this, a knee jerk break. Um,
Yeah.
but right now it's in balance.
Very, very much so. We got some questions here. There was a question from T Bone. How do you know if the order flow is legit when an order is submitted? So let's switch over to the. Not gonna go to that one. Well, I mean, we could use this technically. All of these orders are technically legitimate orders, right? That probably looks insane. So I'll switch it back to.
No, you could keep it. I was like, wow,
No, no,
that's a
no.
lot to bring it back.
A lot
We
of
could learn
numbers.
something.
No, we're gonna. I don't want to get everybody to get dizzy. Blame it on me. All right. So all of these orders are technically, I look at these T-Bone as legitimate orders. Now, the thing is, we don't know whether or not these orders are going to stay out there, right? So right now, there's somebody looking to sell 7 contracts at 59.41 in the S&P. I'm considering that a legit order, right? People look to see, it's like, oh, it's a spoofer, it's this, it's that. So legitimate orders are filled orders. If it's not filled, it's not legit. So that's why I have this time in sales up next to the depth of market so I can see what's out there. But time and sales is going to tell me whether or not it actually trades. You got to put money on the table to be in the game, right? So anyone here, they tell you they may have intentions, but has anyone here ever placed an order and pulled it before? Are you a spoofer or did you change your mind? Right? When you let that order get filled, whether you like it or not, you're in the markets and now there's money behind it. So I'm looking at legitimate orders as anything that gets filled that's going to attribute to volume. That's going to, there are desires behind filled entries, right? I don't, if I cancel an order, I don't care what happens to the market. If I get an order filled, I want something very specific to happen. And that's our job as traders to kind of identify the flow, see who's in control, what their intentions might go over the J trade on the Russell yet today. I did go over the one I took that was a ended up being a loser. It just didn't really work out. We did have a similar one at the lows of the day. Um, this was right off that open. We had one there. The one I took was this here, and it didn't get any follow through. Right, so I could have took it off for a 2 to 0 for a 1 to 1, but we got no follow through, and that ended up being a loser. All right. How synchronized are the moving averages with the roll on Bitcoin? Coach Paul, you want to try to take that one? How synchronized are they?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Good question. I don't think they are. Just and I don't. They maybe they are. It's something I haven't even thought of. Um, but the roll's going to happen if a larger traders are going to keep their hedges on, or if they want to stay long exposure. Um, right now, the moving averages are flattening out because what are they reflecting? They're reflecting change in price, and there hasn't been much change in price. So something to look into. Um, I, I don't see it, but how about you, Coach?
Uh, I I was trying to make sense of that question while reading another one. So my bad. I kind of threw that one to you. Uh,
Okay.
we did have another question. What goes with micro Bitcoin for pairs trading so that we can hedge the positions, like long 5 micro Nasdaq and short 3 micro S&P. I am going to throw up a correlation matrix in the chat. You can take a look at this correlation matrix and see if there's anything inversely correlated to micro Bitcoin. I don't know that I see that correlation just on an eye test in the equities. So I don't know if there's anything that I would think about using as a hedge there. But in that correlation matrix, you might find something that is negatively correlated to Bitcoin prices that you could potentially use as a hedge. Anything you're looking at as a hedge for micro Bitcoin, Coach Paul?
I love that question.
Okay.
I don't have the answer right in front, but I would
Yeah.
do it. I do it on a flow basis.
Okay.
If it's something, something that's under the 200 moving average and VWAP is under, yeah, that would be it. And but you'd have to size it right.
Okay.
But what I mean, you can't just micro Bitcoin is you'd have to do a lot.
Right.
But I would investigate that further. I love the question. I don't have the answer on the top of my head, but I like where you're going.
80
And
in the
I
chat.
think
Go
I
ahead.
think it's a really good idea.
JD in the chat says micro Bitcoin and the 10 year.
Okay.
So maybe that might be something to look at there.
And then you
10
have
year.
to do the ratio.
Right. 10 year on the left there, micro Bitcoin on the right. It's a good question. Good question. I don't know that we've gotten that question before.
Man,
But check it out. There
I
might be you might be
I
onto something.
love to hear these questions here because you're thinking out of the box. I mean, I'm a big believer in pair type trading. I do it a little different. I'm still working on getting better at it, but that's enough for discussions for today.
Yeah.
We'll keep that going.
It's a good
Um,
question.
great question. Um, and I love the idea. Keep us
Stuff.
updated.
I think I'm gonna trade London Open while on vacation with D. Never get to see her show live. Chauncey, I know you. Chauncey, you're supposed to be going on vacation. What are you doing?
So
You said
he's
no
on
trades.
vacation.
You said no trades. Enjoy Spain. No trades. But do what you do. Manage your risk. Yeah, and that would be a great time to kind of hang out with Aaron, who trades gold, and then with D, who trades a bunch of different markets for the Euro Open. Uh, Enjoy your vacation though, Chauncey. Remember, don't ruin vacation with shitty trades. Uh, it's never fun. All right. Any other markets we want to talk about, Coach Paul? We are at time here. Anything on your scouting report that we should be looking out for, or that you're looking at currently?
Not right now.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. We do have Coach Hoop coming up in Discord in about 15 minutes, doing a session then. Then we have Coach Ray and Coach Vince, 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Central Time. Dakota with Slow Markets, that is 7:30. Aaron with the London Open, 1:30 a.m. Central Time. D with the Euro Trade, 3:30 a.m. Central. Almost 24/7 content for you at Topstep. Helping you hopefully become a better trader and helping you with your trading journey. Coach Paul, any words before we go?
Plan your trade and trade your plan. I mean, don't make it too complicated. Trade well.
Good stuff. Don't make it complicated. I will see you all for fast markets tomorrow. I'm gonna go take a nap. But trade well and manage your risk. Andrew, thank you as always for helping us run the show. Chat, thank you as always for helping us and giving us an audience, people to talk to, and asking great questions. We talk all the time about, when we get off this show, what can we do to improve it? And one of the things we keep coming back to is this show is as good as the questions that we get. So we appreciate you all. Uh, Bringing up some stimulating conversation with the questions that you guys are asking. We're still here to learn as well. We don't know all the answers. So thank you for that. Keep doing what you do. Talk to you all tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.